You may think that ranking the Mission Impossible movies would be difficult, when in reality, it's impossible. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Movie Ranker, and today I'm ranking all 7 Mission Impossible movies from worst to best. And yeah, this is extremely difficult. It's very, very hard to rank these. Like, a lot of my top spots could all change. This franchise is so good. One of the better action spy franchises out there. So yeah, I had a tough time with this one. So don't get mad if your favorite movie is not in my number 1 spot. I probably still love it though. Drop your rankings in the comment section and we can compare and discuss. And without wasting any more time, let's get into it. So coming in the last place at number 7, I gotta go with Mission Impossible 2. Now I clearly remember when this movie came out. We had a music video from Metallica, When I Disappear, with Ethan climbing like the Grand Canyon or wherever he's climbing at the start of this movie. So I always really remember that. And plus the theme song being done by Limp Bizkit. This goes to show you when this movie came out. But yeah, easily my least favorite in the franchise. I feel like the movie, especially the first half, is pretty lackluster. All the action's basically in the second half. And the action that we do get is not that great. It's mostly all slow-mo shots, which annoys the hell out of me after a while. And even some things that aren't even action are done in slow-mo, like Ethan's hair, or when they're at the horse races, like the horse in slow motion. It's like, come on. It's not my favorite style. And the whole motorcycle jousting finale is just way too over the top and ridiculous to me. Not a fan. I mean, the story's pretty uninteresting about this virus called the Chimera. And Ambrose makes a pretty forgettable villain, in all honesty, when you look back at this franchise. Overall, it's just a very mediocre spy thriller and an even worse Mission Impossible movie. And you could easily skip part 2 and go right into part 3, and it wouldn't make a difference at all story-wise. You wouldn't be missing anything, so it makes this movie feel even more pointless. Up next is Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation. Now, this is a big step up from Mission Impossible 2. Now we're already into the good movies. And this one's pretty cool. It shows Ethan and his team trying to take down this group called the Syndicate. It's the first time we get the Ilsa character, played by the great Rebecca Ferguson. Absolutely love her ever since I seen Doctor Sleep. And she plays Rose the Hat. Such a good villain. But yeah, she's a great character in here too with Ilsa. She's so mysterious and you're never quite sure what her motives are or who she's really working for. And I like that. It makes her character very interesting. We get that great shot of Ethan, Tom Cruise hanging off the side of the airplane, which was a great stunt. This is where the movie start to see those stunts get bigger and bigger. I like the whole opera house sequence where we get multiple snipers and Ethan trying to take them out, and Ilsa's there and everybody. But the big standout here is the underwater scene where Ethan has to go into like this cooling system that uses water, and that's like where their memory banks is or whatever. And it's just such a thrilling sequence when he goes in there and you're not sure if he's going to make it out alive. It's a great sequence. I just feel that they made Ethan a little bit too superhuman in this one. Like, he can take too much damage. He literally like drowns in this movie. He gets in the crazy car accidents where the car's like flipping and flipping, and the dude can just keep getting up and keep going. And it happens a lot in these movies, but I feel like this one pushed that a little bit too far in my opinion. Just a little too much for my taste personally. And even though it was kind of a satisfying finale with Ethan trapping Lane in the box, kind of like how he was trapped at the start, it feels like we're missing a big epic finale here like a lot of the other movies give us. We don't quite get that, even though it is still satisfying. But just all these little nitpicks kind of put this movie down a little lower on my list personally, but I know this movie has its fans. Up next at number 5, I'm going with the original Mission Impossible. Now these are where the movies are getting real good. Literally, my number 5 could interchange with my number 1. All these movies are so tight, so thin of a margin in between them, so take my ranking with a grain of salt, but I'm going with the original at number 5, and this one is just brilliantly directed by Brian De Palma. I love all the different shots and that we get. It makes it feel different than the other films on here, right? Even though this is the original, this is before they really knew what they had. I just love the whole mystery of trying to figure out who's the real mole in the IMF. Ethan gets all the blame. He's trying to figure out what's really going on. And you get Claire in there too. You're not really sure what her intentions are as well. And it's just great. Makes for a great mystery. We get one of the most iconic sequences in the entire franchise with Ethan going down on the wire into the room where he can't touch or make a noise. It's nail-biting tension. It is just directed so well. I absolutely love it. Definitely a standout scene in the entire franchise, and it came from this first film back in 1996. It's executed to perfection, in my opinion. And I always love the whole intro to this one where they're on their mission and everything goes wrong. They all end up dead. And, this is how Ethan gets the blame of being the mole since he survived. And it's just an intro that I always kind of forget about. I'm always like, oh shit, things go down terribly right away. And it just makes for a great mystery. I always happen to forget that Emilio Estevez is in this movie because he gets killed off pretty quickly. And so I'm always like, oh yeah, he's in here. And Tom Cruise, man, he looks so young in here, even though he's like 34. He kind of has a baby face compared to the later films. The script can get a little bit confusing at times, though, with all these new characters and them throwing around names like Max and Job. And, just the way that Ethan uncovers clues in that on the computer. It is a little bit outdated, a little bit confusing with the way things play out. After you've seen the movie, you can put the clues together, but I do admit on your first time watch, it is a little messy. And this being a 90s movie, of course, some of the effects are outdated, especially in the final act with the train. We get a lot of CGI and green screen in there. But, for the 90s, it still looks pretty damn good. We got to think back at the time. This was ahead of its time, basically, in the action genre. So I don't fault it too much for that. And it still looks great. It's still a thrilling final act. Honestly, all the negatives in here are mostly nitpicks. They don't bother me all that much. And yeah, this was just a great start to one of the best action franchises of all time. Coming in at number 4, I'm going with Ghost Protocol. Now, this is where the hate comments come in, I imagine, because so many people love this, and for good reason. It has some of the most memorable sequences in an entire franchise. They're here, especially Dubai. The whole Dubai act is amazing. It's pure gold. It's 10 out of 10. From when Ethan has to climb the wall outside of the building and his tech not working great, his gloves keep screwing up, to the double meeting they have to do, to the sandstorm that comes after. I'm telling you, Dubai is amazing. And this movie really set the tone for the future installments. Like, it has the perfect balance of comedy and action without going overboard. Like, the comedy never hurts the serious tone. They always work hand in hand. What I'm trying to say is the comedy never sacrifices the tension, which is great. And adding Benji as a part of the main team was brilliant. I love that decision. I was hoping we would get more of him after part 3, and it was one of the best decisions ever. It was just really cool to see the team have to go incognito, not getting any help from the IMF anymore, and, having to use their own tech, which is why they keep screwing up all the time. Like, whether you're talking about the projector in the hallway, that looks really cool, how they trick the guards into thinking that there's no one there in the hall, but it ends up malfunctioning. When he's, like I said, when he's climbing the wall with his gloves, they end up screwing up. Their mask maker ends up screwing up. They have so much problems in here with their tech, and it's real fun to watch. And another thing I like is that they don't bore you with explaining how this tech works. Every new set of gear that they get in here, they literally just use it to show you how it works. There's no need for explanation. And that's just great storytelling right there. And like I said, this movie is chocked full of standout moments. I already mentioned all the Dubai stuff, but also the whole intro with the prison, great prison breakout scene, and it's a lot of fun with Ethan pointing at the cameras, yelling at Benji, and that's so funny. And the whole ending with the parking garage that rotates and stuff. Very cool visually, and it makes for a great final fight. I mean, the mission itself on trying to stop Cobalt from using these missile codes and whatnot, it's been done in the spy genre before a million times, and Cobalt himself is kind of a forgettable villain, but I mean, it doesn't matter when the movie is this good. It's not so much about the mission or about the villain. It's more about the ride, the journey that gets you there with these fun group of characters. And that's why this is such a great entry. At number 3, I'm going with Mission Impossible 3. Oof, getting harder and harder to choose these entries, man. This at any day can be my number 1. I'm telling you, it's that good. It's action packed. It's a very impressive debut from J.J. Abrams. He did a great job in the director's chair for his first time. And like I said, the movie is action packed from start to finish. It's never a dull moment. Ethan learns the hard way that you can't have a relationship in this type of business because it could cost you everything. And, you know, it raises the stakes. It packs an emotional punch. It really adds so much to this story and to Ethan's mission. And I always thought it was really cool having those explosives injected up the nose into the head. Oof, that first scene in the first act of the movie when that girl has her head explode from the inside and her eyes go in different directions. You're like, ooh, and you don't expect it. You figure Ethan's going to save her. He's like trying to charge up his defibrillators. And yeah, it's just such an intense scene. And, you know, it's just so cool. Such a cool concept of having an explosive in your head and how do you get rid of it. And later in the movie, how Ethan gets it done to him. Just very clever. I enjoy all the new cast members here, but the best is easily Philip Seymour Hoffman. He is the standout, the best villain in the entire franchise, hands down, in my opinion. And it's not so much because he's out there just murdering people or whatnot. It's his presence that he brings to the role. You believe what he says. He's genuine when he says, I'm going to take your wife and I'm going to kill her in front of you. You know, like stuff like that. You don't hesitate to think that he's bluffing. No, you think that this is the truth right away. And that makes him such a compelling villain. No nonsense type of guy. So yeah, to me, he's the best in the entire franchise. My only little nitpick is that I found the reveal involving one of the IMF agents being really bad, really working with the bad guys. Like, I found that to be fairly predictable. You can kind of figure out who it is early on, even though they tried to put the blame on Lawrence Fishburne's character. But still, I still think it's fairly well done, even though I found it a little bit predictable. Still a highly enjoyable film, like I said, with tons of action, one of the best villains, and yeah, I really enjoy Part 3. Coming in at number 2, I'm going with the brand new Dead Reckoning Part 1. This is still very fresh, very new. I just rewatched it again, and yeah, it is so good. Maybe over time it will drop in my ranking, but as of right now, this gives tough competition for the top spot in my ranking. I just absolutely loved it. It's a 3-hour movie, or close to 3 hours, that just flies by. This might have the best pacing in the entire franchise. It's weird too. There's only like 5 set pieces or like 5 main locations in this film throughout the almost 3 hours. But every location is memorable, is engaging, and it's just never boring. It always keeps you on your toes. And I just absolutely love all the storylines that go on in here. Our main storyline about the entity, this AI gone rogue and can basically feed the world false information and screw with everybody's tech that's connected online. Just such a juicy concept, and I just love how it screws with their team members here. Like in one part, Ethan gets screwed because he thinks it's Benji telling him where to go and giving him directions, but it's really the entity pretending to be Benji to screw him up. And just little moments like that are great. And plus, introducing Gabriel as the accomplice of the entity was real neat, especially how he ties back to Ethan's past. And I feel like we're going to get more information on that in part 2 of this film. But yeah, Gabriel was a mean villain. I really liked the actor that played him, and he does a fantastic job. And the film almost feels like it's a John Wick movie at times, with the amount of people out to get Ethan and, try to get their hands on this keys. You got the Americans, you got like the two guys always out to get Ethan and they keep screwing up. You got that assassin, Paris, I think her name is, that French Asian chick with the sword. It's just so fun to see all these different groups of people. You got the cops always coming in there trying to get them. It almost feels like the world of John Wick, where all these assassins are after John. And it was just a cool little element to add to this film. And of course, we get Grace in here, a new character played by Hayley Atwell, I think her name is. And she is great. She is obviously Miss Carter from the Captain America movies. Smoking hot. Probably the best looking Impossible Girl, but that's really hard to say in this franchise. A lot of beautiful women. But yeah, I just love how she's kind of a thief that gets hired and caught in this mess in between everything. And she really does grow as a character too throughout. Her intentions change and she starts to see what really matters by the end. And I'm just really excited to see where this character goes in part 2 of Dead Reckoning. And of course, the big dirt bike stunt looks absolutely amazing in here. The whole train finale is super exciting and thrilling, keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it's not the first time we've seen a train sequence in this franchise, but this one is done different, and it just sets up the next movie so well. And hopefully part 2 of Dead Reckoning can keep the high quality that this movie brought. I heard that they might change the name, that it's not going to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2, which is just going to be even more confusing for people going to the movies. But and probably a marketing strategy or whatnot. But I really enjoyed part 1. But for me, coming in the first place, I had to give it to Fallout. This is a fan favorite for good reason. A lot of people love this movie, and it's my number 1 as well, even though there's some other movies on here that give it tough competition. We get a real interesting story of Ethan having to pretending to be John Lark and working with the villains in that. Henry Cavill makes another great addition to the cast. They just don't stop with these great casting decisions with this franchise. It's amazing. And, partnering him up with Ethan, how he's supposed to be CIA, but the whole reveal that he's the actual John Lark was just brilliant. Did not see that coming at all. Really good twist. And they even brought back Julia in this entry, Ethan's ex-wife from part 3. I love how she's still involved, and if you end up in a relationship once with someone involved with the IMF, you're never safe for the rest of your life. That's basically what this movie states. And yeah, it was just so cool adding her back into here. We get great action. We get a great story. The whole bathroom fight sequence is amazing. We get Agent Walker and Hunt both fighting a guy at once, and they're having a pretty hard time, who they suspect to be John Lark. The hand-to-hand combat and the choreography is really well done. Another thing that kind of resembles John Wick a little bit more, because we didn't get a whole lot of crazy hand-to-hand combat stuff in this franchise until now. Of course, watching Ethan run from building to building and Benji screwing up his coordinates is always fun. And the whole sequence from when he gets on that helicopter right to the finale is just epic. Like, really cool the way it's shot with the two helicopters. It looks awesome. And then we get this crazy battle on top of like a cliff. And I just love the way he takes out Henry Cavill's character with the hook coming down, hitting him in the head. It's bloody, it's brutal, and it's just an awesome finale. Absolutely loved it. And everything is, you need to be on time, right? The bombs are about to go off. It's very time pressing, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. To me, Fallout is my number one in the Mission Impossible franchise as of now. It may be dethroned in the future, but as of now, this is my number one. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 7 Mission Impossible movies. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you drop your ranking down in the comment section. I know we will have different rankings because this franchise is just so good that you could have part 3, part 4, part 6, any of them in first place, and it wouldn't be wrong. Like, it's a very high quality franchise, and I love it for that. Also, make sure to follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram if you're interested. Mission Impossible is going to be part of this big mega ranking we're going to be putting out at the end of February. So stay tuned for that. You'll get more info. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.